Well, sorry about that, guys. I just finished up taking a nice long piss on a whole bunch of Black Eyed Peas records. Because it's time for us to talk about some metal. Yeah, it's time for us to talk about another 2011 release, which is due out this coming Tuesday, and that is My Damnation by the band Chelsea Grin. Now, if you know who Chelsea Grin is, then I absolutely have no need for an introduction. But for those of you who don't, I will provide some. Chelsea Grin is a deathcore band that has gained some acclaim ever since their debut came out last year, and it did very, very well. In fact, it's one of those records that I still will find a lot of people purchasing in the store, and I know that a lot of people are going to be purchasing this album whenever it comes out this coming Tuesday, July the 19th. I almost said the 29th. That's a completely unrelated day. Now, Chelsea Grin's blend of metalcore is a little bit different. It's something that I can actually not only tolerate, but actually kind of like. And I think the reason for this is because the vocalist reminds me a lot of the Agony Scene's vocalist from This Darkest Red, and that album for me is one of the pinnacles of the metalcore slash potentially deathcore-ish style slash genre. Now, I enjoyed Chelsea Grin's debut a good bit. My best friend absolutely loved that album. You've seen him on the Blog TV show, and if you have not, you should definitely check out the Blog TV show this coming week, where he will be making a guest appearance. But My Damnation is an album, their second album, so it's time to discover whether or not this band had a sophomore slump, or if they picked up exactly where they left off from last year's debut, and actually furthered the sound a little bit. And I'm going to answer that question right away. And the answer is yes. There's a lot of the same trademarks that you found on the first record on the debut from Chelsea Grin on this particular record as well. Desolation of Eden, of course, had that very raw sound, very deathcore. It has that signature that you heard from so many bands before. However, the breakdowns that you're going to hear on this album, while they are simplistic, they all do go somewhere. They don't just exist just to exist, and that's one thing that I do enjoy. And once again, the vocals are probably the main thing here. It's almost like hearing a wild cheetah or jaguar or some sort of rabid wild animal just screeching into a microphone and just emitting these echoes, these sounds of absolute chaos and rage and absolute abominable anger, to the point where you think that perhaps maybe they're, well, really pissed off about the new Morbid Angel record. Well, I can kind of understand. I think there's actually going to be a lot of bands formed because of that, and that's going to be maybe a concept album of some variety. However, My Damnation is not a concept album about the new Morbid Angel record. No, instead, this is an album that features a lot of heavy, hard-hitting riffs. Not to mention, they're also starting to get a little bit better at songwriting. The songwriting is actually honed in a little bit more on this record, on My Damnation, where you're starting to see the presence of a little bit more in the way of harmony, a little bit more of the way of a structure in some of the records. Last Breath is a perfect example of this, where the outro riff to it, and it's a riff that's actually repeated a couple of times in the chorus part of the song, reminds me a little bit of a band more along the lines of a Killswitch Engage or an As I Lay Dying. And some people may think that that's a downside because those names are kind of a sellout term or something like that to some people. I disagree with that term, but I'm just kind of going with the flow there. I actually think that this is a strength. This is something that's going to transform Chelsea Grin into one of the best of their genre, and it's something that's happening at a very young and mature time in their career. So that's something that I am very happy to see this band progress into doing. This is something that adds another dynamic to a record as a whole, not to mention it also builds a little bit of character. Now, the last track on this album is also features a guest vocalist, and that is Phil Boozman from Whitechapel, and the two of them together are able to just produce something that is exceptionally violent in nature. Now, this isn't like grindcore violent, this isn't like power violence violent. We're talking just straight up deathcore. This is almost like a deathcore orgy of bliss for some fans, as they're going to hear these two vocalists clash. We have the deep sneering growls of the Whitechapel vocalist going up against the jaguar yelps of Chelsea Grin's frontman, and the combination actually creates a perfect final track for this album. Overall, I gotta say, Chelsea Grin's My Damnation is going to be a mighty fine fit to any deathcore band's catalog, not to mention also a mighty fine fit to my own catalog as well. This is one where, well, RB, if you're out there, I give you some thanks. Thank you for showing me this band, and thank you for actually forcing me to listen to it, because you talked about it so goddamn much. Some goddamn much, man. Yeah, some goddamn much. But at any rate, Ladies and gentlemen, this is an album that I definitely recommend for all of you guys. I'm actually going to go a little bit random on this one here. I'm going to give this album a solid 7.843271120,974 repeating out of 10. And I think that that's a fair score. CoverkillernAtion saying sometimes you can find a little bit of bliss, a little bit of harmony, a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. And then my tunnel for me is, of course, deathcore, as it's not something that I review or talk about often. But hey, Chelsea Grin's a band that I definitely enjoy. So bravo to those guys. And I will check you guys later. Remember, new All Shall Perish coming out next week. So there's going to be a review of that one coming real soon.